Hello and welcome to that British Homestead. My name's Nick. Today, well, I thought I'd take you around planting out our spring bulbs in winter. So let's get started. So I've got a mix of bulbs here. Now I got a right bargain, didn't I? I went to B&Q and they were having their wintry sale and I got loads of these packets of seeds for only £1 each, which is absolutely fab. And they have all different things from irises, all sorts of bulbs, and I'm going to be putting them out here along my garden path because I thought it would be nice to have this sort of area where nothing really grows because I tend to mulch it so well, and I'm going to have lovely bulbs for spring. I try to have lots of flowers in the garden so that we have absolutely tons of bees. I do think that the more flowers that I'm growing, the more the bees are coming, and I don't really have any problems with any form of pollination because my pollination rate is really good. I have no issues. When I first started gardening back at my home, I used to have an issue with pollination to the point where I used to have to hand pollinate pretty much all my squashes. Now, you probably know this if you've been watching for a little while. I grew about half an allotment of just squashes, and I'm telling you now that my squashes all came out absolutely perfectly, and I didn't hand pollinate one. I grew a half an allotment of tomatoes, didn't hand pollinate one. And I thank that all to our little friendly bees and all of our pollinators that we have around the allotment. Now, if you don't treat them well, why would they come to your allotment? They wouldn't, would they? So I think it's so important to make a habitat for them. Now, I've got two lots of bulbs. I've got some that are really good for pots, and I've got some that are just called wildlife bulbs, and they're all different types of bulbs from, like I said, tulips, daffodils, loads of things in there. And what they're going to do is have a very long flowering season so that so that the bees can have something to eat right up until the very, very heart of spring and early summer. So I am really looking forward to that. I also have some lovely bulbs that I've put in at home so that I don't have the same issue at home because I'm still going to be growing things at my house. Probably not very much that needs pollinating. For example, I'm going to grow corn and things like that, but I still like to have the flowers around and I still like having butterflies and bees in the garden. Now, it's not just honeybees that you can be attracted into the garden. There's hundreds of different types of bees that don't make honey but still pollinate. Flies, spiders, butterflies, etc. They all do a really fab job at pollinating everything you need around the allotment or the garden. So it is important. Now I'm just using my hori hori knife here. I absolutely love this thing. It is amazing. I got it just a few months ago. I'm using it for everything. You know what it's like having a new tool. And I'm just making quick work of this, and it is absolutely lovely soil underneath this wood chip, and I'm just going to top it up so that it is very snuggly. It's actually getting very cold again. Do you know what? Today, when I was driving along in my car, I was actually getting frost come over the front window and like having to put the heat full on the front window to stop it frosting over. I've never experienced anything like that. That was crazy. So although it is warming up, remember it is still winter, so don't be putting out anything frost tender. So that's why I'm going to be putting a large layer of mulch on this to keep these all snugly warm and frost free as you can. So that the really harsh temperatures don't get them. However, please remember that these do need a good season of cold so that they actually flower, and that's why I'm getting them in now, because if I get them in too late they will not flower this year. Not a problem, they don't flower this year, worst comes to worst, they'll flower next year, won't they? So I'm not really that worried. I am slowly over the next few years going to have lovely bulbs all the way around the allotment, and they'll be absolutely lovely, I know. Okay, so and every year they do split and make another bulb, a bit like a garlic. Obviously not edible, please don't eat them. But they produce another whole bulb which you can split later and go ahead and plant. So the more I plant, it's kind of like a little cash mine where I can just go ahead and split them up very soon and put them everywhere else in the allotments. It's very exciting. So as you can see, I'm just going to be very unceremoniously dumping down wood chips on top of everything and just freshening up this patch. As you know, I keep threatening to put mushrooms down here, and one of the big reasons I want lots and lots of wood chips is to make sure that I have a really good substrate for my mushrooms. I'm going to be doing wine caps. I'm so excited about that, my goodness. So it's going to be great. There's a lot of work left to be done. There's a lot of wood chips left to be spread. I do like the back to Eden method. It's what I've done at home, and I've made some beautiful compost for it. I know some people don't like this method, but hey ho. I like to even use it on the garden beds, as you've seen in many of my videos, and we're just seeing how it works in the long term. Now this is what I call whole tree, which means it's got leaf in it, it's got bark in it, and it's got twigs in it, you know it. It's all different sizes, so it breaks down to make a lovely aerated substrate here for my mushrooms and for these bulbs. Now it also gets rid of the weeds, because it's so hard for a weak weed to push all the way up, and if it does, you're able to put it out very easily, which is very exciting, I know. And I'm basically going to go all along with this. So I've got so much of the allotment left to wood chip, is very true, and I've got a couple more beds still left to do, and I'm very much looking forward to be honest, doing that and it to be over all at the same time. Now I'm continuing putting these bulbs out. Like I said, there's absolutely tons of them. I think I got something like, I got about 150 bulbs here, which is quite a lot of bulbs for only about £2, which is very, very good if you ask me. I've already put out a load of daffodils, etc., and I am going to be really looking forward to them. Jasmine's patch is full of bulbs, and like I said, each year they will be making more corns or making more bulbs, so it's very exciting. If you haven't done already and you would like to see us continue our journey, please consider subscribing, because every little helps and it helps grow our channel. Thank you so much. Like I said, with these bulbs and corns, the best thing you can do is, if you've planted them late, for example, they should have been really planted by now. But if you haven't planted them, the best thing to do is just plant them anyway. They might not flower, they might not work properly, but if you're going to leave them, they will end up completely, utterly going rotten if you don't go ahead and plant them. So that's what I've done. I've gone ahead and planted them, and I should have planted them a little bit earlier, but you know what? Life gets in the way, doesn't it? So what I'm doing here is I'm just covering these ones up with wood chips well, because basically I'm just trying to protect them from the elements, and I've also planted them in basically very poor substrate here. This is not very good soil. Most of it is just little pebbles that have been um, collected from someone tilling this soil repeatedly. Remember, I'm no dig, the person before me used to dig, and when you're digging and tilling the soil, you kind of end up with loads of rocks coming to the surface, and people tend to have like a little like rock graveyard where they kept all their rocks and just throw them to the side. So that's what they've done, and this wood chip will 100% break down over time. Now, I've noticed that I've had some issues with my peas, and my peas have started browning and like getting a little bit all struggling really, and I think it's because of our continuous drops in significantly cold weather. So I've decided finally, after all the cold weather, to mulch them. So I'm just going to head, sorry, not mulch, to cover them. So I'm going to head and putting some of this basically frost cloth on them, so that they are not so much subjected to the elements. Now I was going to put a whole load of peas out into a new bed today, but I didn't do that. Why? Because I thought to myself, if I go ahead and put that out now, it's only going to be subjected to the cold and it's going to have an issue. Now this week coming is going to warm up, but make sure that you're looking at your long forecast, because it isn't going to be spring anytime soon. Our last frost isn't until very far last week of April, and then you can start putting your tenders out like 1st of May. But it is an issue. If you put them out now, it will be a problem. I do have people that I was speaking to when I was planting out my last lot of garlic, and they were saying, "Oh my goodness, why are you planting garlic? You're never going to have any more frost." I'm thinking, no, 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 it's like December, there's going to be more frost, okay? Same now, there's going to be more frost. Don't fall into a full sense of security because it warms up a little bit. This is kind of like fake spring continuously now, where it gets really cold and then it gets really warm and then cold, warm, cold, warm, cold, warm. So it basically is like lulling you into putting all your little seedlings out, and then it's going to kill them all. So just be super careful. That's how I lost all my seedlings last year. Do you remember I accidentally turned the heater off? Don't I like I still feel bad when I think about it. So here what I'm doing is I'm just cutting up this row cover. I try to keep it as big as possible because then it's more flexible for what I want to do next time. I won't be throwing this away. This is kind of like its forever home. So I'm going to be kind of like cutting it up and then reusing it in the same sort of length. I'm going to be using probably a large part of this on that bed I'm going to be planting the peas out into. I'm very excited about growing peas, I have to say. I'm really hoping they do well this year, but we do have to cover up everything, not only for the frost, but because I don't know about you guys' allotments, because I see some people's allotments, they don't have anything netted, and I always think to myself, like, how are you guys not netting things when I can't leave anything out because of the birds? So between the birds, the rabbits, and the mice, I'm in a bit of a sticky wicket when it comes to pests, because the pests are just so extremely good at being pests. So if anything's uncovered, you will have them all eaten. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure that everything is covered up, including brassicas, peas and beans for next year. Because if not, the birds, the rabbits and the mice and the rats and you name it will eat them all, the lucky little things. So here I'm just going to be weighting it down with some of these pieces of wood, and I've put some pegs in it as well, just for good measurement of having things down. This powdery stuff that I'm spreading down is just a mole repellent because there's moles that are digging in the ground. It just makes, it's a neem oil that makes the soil taste really bad, so they don't want to look for worms there. It doesn't hurt them in any way, but it just prevents them digging around where you have your plants growing. Now, where I have the paths, I don't mind them digging around there. Where I have the chicken coop, I don't mind them digging around there. But I do mind where my plants are so that I can have them in a sort of safe location. So I do use that sparingly where I see sign of sort of activity. I'm also hoping if it is a little mousy hole or a rat hole, maybe it will reduce their population as well because they're not going to be gnawing on the roots, etc. Because it's going to just absolutely taste minging. If you've ever accidentally got a little bit of neem oil on your hand, touched your face and tasted it, you know exactly what I mean. It's very bitter and it's not nice at all. So it is important to kind of reduce their population, especially where you're going to be growing food on the basis that they, you know, they're hungry, they want to eat too. So they will end up nibbling all of your veggies. So like I said here, I've got some corns here. I'm not too sure what the variety are, but they came in a little variety pack as well. And I'm just putting these in. They are the smaller ones, little black corns and some white ones as well. So I'm just going to make sure that everything goes into little holes and I have them all ready and willing to go. And I'm just going to be covering these in wood chips as well. Now, the more I go, the more exciting it is, isn't it? I'm so excited about these, and I just have this vision of loads of bulbs that are going to be coming up. Not maybe not this year because I have left it a little bit late, but maybe next. Even like next year, the year after, it's going to look amazing. It's going to be one of those ways, or you can see just like loads of butterflies, probably all cabbage white, trying to lay eggs on my cabbages, but it's going to look amazing. And you know what I found as I'm getting older? I found that if I have flowers in the garden, it really makes me happy to watch them and just be around them. So I'm spending even more time down the allotment and even more time in the garden, which means I'm going to have more time for weeding, more time for planting, more time to do all of the things that make a garden very productive. And if I keep doing that, then I'm going to have a wonderfully productive season. And do you know what? I wish you a wonderfully productive season too.